Hello, my name's Will,
And my name's Johnny.
and together
we're
we're
Will and
Johnny.
Johnny.
Let me start by saying thank you to all of you. Fantastic feedback on the last session we did. Thank you very much to all of you for encouraging us to continue, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Will we?
People seem to like the Austrian and the Englishman.
I don't know. I can't
No
explain
idea
it.
why.
I can't explain
No
it.
idea why.
I'm
But
sure there's a
anyway,
reason, but we will find out
it went
maybe
down.
later.
It went down well.
Yeah.
It
So,
went down well.
what are we talking today?
Oh, franchise concepts.
Franchise concepts.
We're
We need
talking-
more of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the things that had resonance on the last session was the need for landlords, property owners, to bring new brands.
New brands.
Get
Yes.
new brands into the
Absolutely.
spaces. And I think, it's not specifically talking about franchising today, but getting brands in. A lot of them are moving into other countries through third parties, through
Absolutely.
a partner
Absolutely.
there.
If you
That's
think
the challenge.
If you think about it, speaking challenges, everyone wants more brands. What's the big, challenges, the big, things which are not so easy to sort out for the landlords? Because everybody wants brands, and brands are out there, tons of them. We both know this
I
because
think that's a really interesting question, because if you look at Dubai, you look at GCC, a lot of that problem got solved by landlords actually stepping over the line
very
and
true.
becoming brand operators, which, I think in a lot of Western world is harder to get your head around. But actually
Probably.
it's worked really well
works.
in
It works.
GCC. And I guess one of the questions I'm asking myself at the moment is, how soon is it going to be before landlords in the Western world, the US, UK, Central Europe, Western Europe, will actually start doing that themselves as well? Will actually start setting up vehicles to operate brands, because they just can't feed the monster. They just can't get enough. I mean, ECE at the moment, we've got, I don't know, about 135, 140 brands that we're talking to, who all need operators in Germany.
Yeah.
We know how difficult it is in Germany.
I think it's besides Germany. I think the finding some, because we always have the chats about the brands and their stories and on the highest of levels, and then we like the story, and then we not just only need somebody who keeps the lights on. We want somebody who takes the story and tells the story in exactly the way which we have initially thought the story will be told. And we both know from experience that's not always the case. Although the head office might have approved the deal or might have approved the location, the actual person or the actual company which at the end runs it can run it into the ground. Even if the story itself is great, it might not be done properly.
A very good friend of mine, who is now head of a very nice business in the UK, said to me that Europe is littered with the corpses of unsuccessful partnership arrangements.
Oh, for sure.
And it absolutely is, where people have taken the easy route and gone quite often with the first or second, I want that partner because I need to get my brand out there. And they're coming back to market, in some cases, 2 times, 3 times, even 4 times.
I was involved in some of them.
To get relaunch, and finally ending up with a quality of partner. And the thing that always makes me laugh is it's like matchmaking.
Yeah.
If you want the relationship to last and you want it to be successful, it's not going to happen overnight. Well, it may happen overnight, but it's not a good thing that it does.
Very rarely.
But the reality is, you've got to work at that relationship, and the early part, the mining, the finding the right people, the doing all that stuff, which all those consultants and specialists do.
Yeah.
The reality from a landlord perspective is, you have to trust that the 2 people in the room, the brand and the operating partner, actually do want to work together and actually do want to deliver.
I think this is it. I think we can elaborate on that. Especially when the brand enters an environment like a mall or something where lots of things come together. In my experience, the actual engagement of the person providing the place and the person operating is they're not always sitting on the same side for the story which needs to be told.
No.
I understand that the rent thing, and I understand the leasing part. Of course, every developer to a certain extent needs to pay mortgages and other things. However, if you start taking curation seriously, which we have discussed in one of our other sessions, if you take all these things serious, I think you need to kind of, in the way how you collaborate with partners, regardless if they're smaller or bigger, you need to have some form of a stake in that dialogue to allow this to unfold in the best possible manner.
That's an uncomfortable place still
Yes,
for a lot of Western European traditional landlords.
I understand.
And I get that. I get that because, at arm's length, and especially their banking partners, a lot of their banking partners require that there is an arm's length between the lease and the lessee and the lessor. As I say, GCC is a little bit more relaxed about that and seems to have had more success with it. But I think in time, there's a huge amount of investment that can go into setting up operating companies, which if you set up that as a fund in its own way, there's a ready-made group of operators who would benefit from that fund, and everybody wins. The value of the fund goes up, the growth perspectives start to happen, and you end up creating this amazing recirculating economy, which drives forward volume and makes life a little bit better.
Since we might have people which don't know the GCC so well, and I just want to just make a step back. Obviously, in the GCC, you have all these massive multi-operators, which are not going in there with I rent X and I rent Y. They go in there and say, I'll take 35% of that mall, and another big operator takes another 25%. So at the end of the day, the majority of the mall is leased before individuals ever have an opportunity to step into it and say, I want to run this particular brand. So obviously GCC is different structure, but they are now running more into this issue that variety is an issue because everything is pretty much the same and it's just a copy paste of the last thing and lacks individuality and kind of how should I say, versatility from a customer point of view, even in the GCC. Whereas in Europe, you have all these brands which want to go into Europe and they would love to be operated individually, but they can't find the people.
Yeah.
But what they then very often do is it's the sale, which is the easiest in my view. Is the selling it to somebody is an easy part, but creating a consistent development or consistent way of understanding what you want to operate, that's what's lacking. And I think landlords could play a role in the way how this dialogue went and how this can be managed because they have so much experience in running things. They see how things go down the drain.
Yeah.
They could also kind of share that experience to a certain extent with these operators, despite the fund idea or whatever, but they could actually play a little bit of a more influential role in the way how the outcome of a particular operation works.
Obviously they want to have a better outcome. They want to have a broader tenant mix. They want to have more competition for the space. I mean, that's what everybody wants out there. And it's interesting when we were in Internorga, you're talking to the, Deutsche Bahn and lots of other stakeholders who are owning property, who are desperate to bring more choice to their guests. It's not just about rent. It's about boredom. And boredom is the threshold is really quite low at the moment. Lots of people are, because they've come out of COVID, and again, you talk about COVID, but they come out of COVID and they want to find something interesting and something new, which is why they're out there. And I think it's a great time for brands to be looking, but it's also a great time for brands to be cementing that relationship.
I agree.
And I think if landlords can help, and it's not about money per se, not about just putting money into a deal. It's about helping to facilitate. It's one of the things that we're at ECE, we're spending an awful lot of time trying to do is getting together a group of operators who we can rely on to actually look at other brands. So we're not franchising experts, but we do know a lot of people in a lot of operating markets. And if you push the boundary a little bit and go, okay, well, you're operating X brand at the moment. Have you ever thought about operating Y brand? Have you ever thought about that? And a lot of them, the first answer you get is no, actually I wasn't. I've always done this. Okay, well, it's not that is going to be unsuccessful in the future, but actually those two sit very well next to each other. Have you thought about that?
Have you ever, I mean, I know we discussed this before, but do you think there is a possibility that mall operators in Europe, not the Middle East, not Asia, but the mall operators in Europe, will start thinking of engaging in operating?
I think it's really the way the valuation model works still traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
A tenant signing on a lease creates a rent, which creates a value.
Of course.
That's a
the way it works.
chef's incredibly simplistic view of life, and my apologies for that. A gentleman called Roger Fulford, who taught me all about leases a long time ago at a company called St. Quintin, and I still to this day take my hat off to him because he helped me so much. But and that was a strange thing for a chef to learn, but actually when you learnt that, you then understood how the property market worked. That's not going to change anytime soon. So what we've got to do is find a way, as I say, arm's length is probably the best way to describe it, where they can do that. Maybe it's setting up an opco that's far enough removed. Maybe, here's a controversial thought, maybe it's a number of landlords setting up an opco to service all of theirs. The competitors come together
to create
an environment of brands that actually gives an incubation opportunity for a number. And I think that's a brave landlord and developer that does that. But actually, there are some incredibly innovative things going on out there in property industry. I don't think anything's off the table, Will.
No, it has to be on the table, actually.
Can't be off the table. Otherwise, we will run out of operator, opportunities.
Yeah.
And we will miss some great ones for them to come because it's complex. It's complex and it's expensive, without doubt.
Since lots of our listeners, if we think of Across Magazine, is German-speaking, German, Austrian, Swiss. Looking at Germany in particular, country where there's a lot of conviction that everything can be done by individuals the best. There's still the general presence of international brands operated is actually, in comparison to the size of the country, is actually pretty small. What do you think could be what could be a lever to change that? To get more brands into Germany.
Brilliant question, may I say? Will.
Every now and then that happens. I don't know.
Okay, so let me give you the world according to Johnny when it comes to Germany.
There we go.
And somebody actually called me Mr. Europe a couple of weeks ago, which really blew my mind because I've just been plodding along doing what I've been doing, for quite a long time.
Just for the record, there is an English gentleman here who is now talking to an Austrian explaining how Germany works. I really I can't wait to hear this because I'm sure this is going to be great.
It's an Englishman's perspective on that, but you're right. I think the point is that Germany is a very cautious country. It always has been, and quite rightly so. I think that what will shock it and what will move the market forward, which I think is your question, is examples where it hasn't gone in the traditional way, where we haven't grown by individual franchisees in cities and regions, but actually companies are landing and just doing Germany. And I'm getting really excited because there are some companies coming from other countries to do that, and there are companies in Germany that are now deciding to do that. So I think, and I'm not going to say out with the old and in with the new, but there is definitely a change going on in Germany at the moment, on optimism. To your point about franchising, in the old days in Germany, you had to open 3 or 4 stores because as a company, because if you didn't, nobody in Germany believed it would work. Oh, it won't work in my country, it won't work in my city, it won't work in my region. And so once they then had 3 or 4 open, they could do it. Now, they're a bit more speculative.
I agree with you, and I add something to this, which I discuss a lot. Obviously, is since you said it, Germany is a bit more, more cautious and more hesitant when it comes to things. I think Germany doesn't need anybody from outside telling them what's great or not. You have to do your job. You have to. Sorry for that, but you have to shut up. Just do your work. Show that you're actually good in what you do, and eventually people will start actually falling in love with you because of the fact that you're there, you take it serious, and you do what you set up to do, instead of just announcing that you're going to do great things. But at the end of the day, you cannot deliver
on the matter of shut up. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I can't copy it either way. An interesting comment from an
From
Austrian on
Austrian, yeah.
Germans.
Yeah.
But I think the point for me is that we've got a really interesting moment in time right now where Germany is changing. It's painful. You can see it. There's lots of things that are not going right, but fundamentally, it's an amazing country that is
Oh
going to
yeah,
grow.
I 100% agree.
Loads of great operators. You look at people like L'Osteria.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a world-class business. No wonder Henry invested in it. It's a world-class business. It's not just good.
But
it's
that's what I
very
meant.
good.
But that's what I meant. They are the classic example for
Yeah.
how things work.
Yeah.
In all silence, not Vapiano, in all silence, they built one store after the next store.
Yeah.
And in my personal opinion, they took over the moms and pops Italian in Germany almost without people recognizing it as a chain.
And they became
marvelous.
the local favourite that's national. On that point,
fantastic.
I think we've done it for today.
Yes, we've done it.
So,
guys, thank you very much for listening in
lovely
again.
to see you. You take care.
I'm pretty sure we're going to see you guys soon. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.